Hello plant lovers, Matthew in Melbourne welcoming you to my channel. Hello plant lovers. I do post every week, so do subscribe if you're interested. I am an amateur growing cold, cool, intermediate orchids here in Melbourne in Australia. And today, plant lovers, it is a Phalaenopsis revisited, as Evelyn Waugh may have said. And why? Because it is time for an experiment. Now, everyone has their own versions and their own ways of growing Phalaenopsis. As you can see, I'm growing mine in glass in sphagnum, which I know a lot of people will be mortified and horrified at, but seems to work for me. But the point of this video is not the potting, it's the flowering. So here's the bag. This is, now firstly, all of my Phalaenopsis are supermarket hardware store rescues. They're like rescue puppies. You know, the ones that look very dead and are discounted to sort of $5 at the checkout, and you think, oh, I've got to save you. Anyway, these are they, and they flower well. But I have an opportunity to experiment with flowering, and so I want to share that with you and film it. We're going to go live with the experiment. I mean, it's going to take months, but nonetheless. So the thing is, with flowering, there are two schools of thought. So here we have a spent flower spike, as you can see, and the last flower just fell off. And I'll come in and show these to you a little bit closer, but what you can see is the stalk is still very vigorous and there is a flower growth point at the end. But what has also happened is I have a growth coming out here halfway up the stem. Now, I have always historically cut off my spent flower stems because the thinking is that perhaps by cutting it off you stimulate a better single spike in the next season that's going to give you bigger, better flowers, blah, blah, blah. It's better for the plant, yada, yada, yada. So there's that school of thought. However, there is also the school of thought that if the spike doesn't dry and wither, then it is capable of re-blooming. I happen to be at a friend's house in Tasmania who is an avid orchid grower, and he has Phalaenopsis and he never trims the cane unless it completely dies, and he gets continual cycles of flowering. And I thought, just so happens I have a spike that is kind of looking like it wants to do the same thing. So I thought, let's just experiment. But an experiment is no good without a control. And so here, this plant has got its regular flower spike, which I will come in and show you closer in here. So this one, a little early in the season, it's late autumn, so it's kind of early for the spikes to start developing, but these guys respond to change in light and temperature. So it's been quite chilly quite early here in Melbourne. So this baby has just decided it's time. So what I want to do, plant lovers, is just see what happens. So we basically have a flower spike here that is just coming out of the leaf. And then we have this spike here that is established, and it is just starting to show this shoot here, and it's got the active growth point at the end. So I want to see how many blooms this one might produce and what the time frame might be. And then obviously this one is producing its normal flower spike, and it will have who knows how many flowers, but we'll see. So we'll see who wore it best. The other thing to notice on this one, can you see here that charming little nibble? That, plant lovers, was a caterpillar. Now, I grow Phalaenopsis indoors in Melbourne because it's too cold in winter to have them outdoors. Who knows how that caterpillar managed to gain access, but it did. It's one of the reasons why you must always check your plants. Luckily, I got it just before it really went munching, but isn't that mad? Such a beautiful new leaf, and now it's got this little it's like Swiss cheese. So there we are. I'm curious what you might think. Do you cut? Do you not cut? Obviously, when the flower spike has completely died, and you can tell that because the stem dries out, it becomes very beige and dry, and it's obviously dead. So you cut that down at the base. Now, I've always done that, but I've actually always cut them when they were still green because, you know, that was the school of thought I came from. But plant lovers, it's all about broadening your horizons. So this season with this baby, I am not going to cut it, but I'm going to let it see what it wants to do with that spike. Because I'm a nature boy, you know, why should we constrain things when clearly it wants to do what it wants to do? So I'm going to let it. But do let me know below what your experience is of the flower spike question. Do you cut? Do you not cut the green stems once the flowers have dropped off? That is the million-dollar question. We all cut off dead stems because they're dead, but do you cut the green ones? That's what I've always done, and that is what I'm not going to do now. So let's check in however long it's going to take, keep you an update with this spike and an update with this one, and we'll just see what happens. And now, plant lovers, just to make our experiment even more valid, I have this orchid here that actually flowered at the same time as this one. So this one is the one with the green spike that we're going to leave, and this one flowered at the same time, but you can see the spike is already turning pale green, limey, and it's clearly dying. So off it comes, and then we can compare how fast this one will respike, given that these spiked at the same time. We're leaving the existing spike on that because it seems to be happy and blooming, and this one at the back has a spike that is just emerging. So we now have a three-way operation, and I am going to trim off this one. Let's remove the stick and take this out from the very bottom like that. Ta-da! Which will produce the most flowers? Which will flower first? Let's see. There we are, plant lovers. A brief interlude from me today, which is just all about Phalaenopsis, supermarket rescues. What can I say? I've actually stopped getting them now because I do have too many, but there's nothing like a huge white Phalaenopsis flower. They are so beautiful. Anyway, let's see what happens with these. I look forward to seeing what you have to say about the great Phalaenopsis to cut or not to cut question, and I look forward to seeing you next week.